A grateful and at times defiant Donald Trump told the Post Sunday he's supposed to be dead, as he recalled the harrowing moment a would-be assassin shot at him at a Pennsylvania campaign rally. The former president shared the very surreal experience that nearly ended his life during an interview aboard his private plane en route to Milwaukee for the GOP National Convention.
Well, he said he's been taking phone calls and talking to people of all different political stripes, of all different stations in life. And people are talking to him and of course, making sure that he's okay. So I think that he's feeding off of that positive sort of feedback from people. I mean, I did ask him who he was with, but, you know, he was, as I was interviewing him, he was getting ready to leave Bedminster and go to Milwaukee. Something he wasn't initially going to do, but decided, you know, I'm not going to let anything change me. I need to be there. I'm supposed to be there. I'm going there.
The doctor at the hospital said he never saw anything like this. He called it a miracle, said Trump, who was sporting a large, loose white bandage that covered his right ear. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead, Trump said. I'm supposed to be dead.
In an interview to the New York Post, Trump said the doctor at the hospital said he never saw anything like this. He called it a miracle. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead.
He said he would be if he had not turned his head slightly to the right to read a chart on illegal immigrants. At that instant, what would have been a kill shot tore off a small piece of his ear and splattered blood on his forehead and cheek.
When you watch him at a rally, he always looks forward. Always looks forward. He never looks to his right or to his left. And he had put a screen up that showed a chart. Also never does charts. And he looked to his right, something he never does. And as he looked to his right, the bullet grazed right past his face. And I was standing right there when it happened. And he said in that moment, he understood that everything had changed for the country and for himself.
Trump said that as Secret Service agents led him off stage, he still wanted to continue speaking to supporters. But the agents told him it wasn't safe and they had to get him to a hospital. He marveled at how the agents came flying in like linebackers as soon as the shooting started. And he unbuttoned his long-sleeve white shirt to show a large bruise on his right forearm. He also cleared up a mystery about his shoes. On the video of the shooting and aftermath, as the burly agents tried to rush him off the stage for safety, he can be heard saying, "Wait, I want to get my shoes." As he explained in the interview, the agents hit me so hard that my shoes fell off, and my shoes are tight, he said with a smile. He commended the Secret Service personnel for their heroic actions and praised them for gunning down the shooter, who was perched on a roof about 130 yards from the stage where Trump was speaking. They took him out with one shot right between the eyes, the former president said as he pointed to the bridge of his nose. They did a fantastic job, he added. It's surreal for all of us.
I saw a look on Trump's face that I'd really never seen in public before, which is he's clearly very emotional. Trump, in his speeches, can just kind of run the gamut of personalities. He can be angry, he can be funny, but I really haven't seen that kind of emotion. And it was actually quite consistent with what I saw on the plane with him. We flew on Sunday evening before the convention began, flew from Newark to Milwaukee. And this was 24 hours or less than after he had been shot. And it was very clear that he was trying to process what had happened. It was so recent and it was so monumental. And he talked over and over again about the position of his head at the moment the shot was fired.
Trump also addressed the incredible photo of him raising his fist and saying "fight" 3 times as the agents tried to get him off stage and into an armored SUV. A lot of people say it's the most iconic photo they've ever seen, Trump said. They're right, and I didn't die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic picture. He added, I just wanted to keep speaking, but I just got shot.
He thought that it was very, very important that in that moment, when that happened to him, he understood this is what he wants to do, what he's supposed to do. And he talked a lot about when he stood up, and there's that sort of iconic moment when he puts his fist up. And he told me that he really wanted to project to people. He said it wasn't about him at that moment. He wanted to project to those people, and he says he loves these people, and they are the backbone. This is a Rust Belt area. This is a blue-collar, white, working-class, mostly crowd. And he wanted to project to he thought it was important to project to the country in that moment that everything was okay. That he was okay and the country was okay. And I thought that was really fascinating. And he was in a very good mood. He sounded incredibly upbeat. These moments have a way of changing people. Just 1 centimeter a difference, and we would have him be talking about a much, much different story today.
The doctor at the local hospital, which has a trauma center, told him he's never seen anyone survive getting hit by an AR-15, Trump recalled. By luck or by God, many people are saying it's by God I'm still here, he said. One man at the rally was shot and killed, and 2 were wounded. Asked if he had given any thought to attending the funeral of Corey Comparatore, the firefighter who died shielding his family from the killer's gunfire, Trump said yes. Then, turning to aides standing behind him, he said, "Get the numbers. I want to go to the hospital and call all the families." Trump also praised the crowd at the rally, which he put at 55,000 people, for remaining calm. A lot of places, especially soccer games, you hear a single shot, everybody runs. Here there were many shots and they stayed. He added, "I love them. They are such great people." U.S. Sen. Lindsey Graham, RSC, spent much of the flight talking to Trump and found his optimism unbelievable. He feels like he has a new lease on life, Graham said. There's already some proof of that, as Trump related that his brush with death had changed his mind about the speech he will give Thursday to accept his party's nomination for the 3rd consecutive time. "I had prepared an extremely tough speech, really good, all about the corrupt, horrible administration," he said, then suddenly added, "but I threw it away." He said a new speech was in the works because, "I want to try to unite our country." Folding his arms, he added, "But I don't know if that's possible. People are very divided."
And then I asked him if I could interview him, just talk to him about those moments and about how this changed him. And that's when he said, well, I was going to do a speech that was going to be a real humdinger. I think those were his exact words. But, you know, everything changed in that moment.
Was it a matter of tone? The reporter asked. Or were there policy changes he had in mind? The policy differences, he suggested, are the stumbling block. Some people want open borders, some don't. Some want men to be able to play on women's sport teams, and others don't. Still, he said, he remains convinced that success will unite the country, though he didn't otherwise define what that success would entail.
I imagine that the RNC was supposed to be both a celebratory event, but also a time to make the case against his opponent. What did he tell you he's going to focus on now?
He said he was going to focus on bringing the country back together. He thought that it was very, very important that in that moment.
He said he appreciated the call from President Biden, calling it fine, and that Biden was very nice. He suggested, without offering specifics, that the campaign between them could be more civil from now on. He also said that we hear that Biden will order the Department of Justice to drop its 2 prosecutions of Trump. So far, there's no public sign of that. The interview with the reporter of the Washington Examiner lasted more than 30 minutes and concluded as the plane sat on the tarmac after landing in Milwaukee. At one point, a video of the shooting flashed on a large TV screen over my shoulder, which was tuned to CBS News and facing Trump. Watching him as he watched the big screen, I could see he was riveted. And he said this was the first time he had watched the 2-minute segment. More than once, he shook his head, as if disturbed by seeing how close he came to death.
He said, you know, I usually speak, I'm at the lectern, I'm facing the audience, and I'm speaking. But on this occasion, he had brought a visual aid, a big sign that had statistics about immigration. And he was looking up over to his right to look at the sign. And the sign was also elevated. It was hanging from a crane at the site. And so he was looking up and over to his right. And at that instant, the bullet grazes his ear. And he knows that if he were facing just a little more forward, or if he was facing in his normal posture, facing the crowd, it would have been instantly fatal. So, you know, that gets you to thinking. And he was just kind of replaying that over and over. And he was actually there's a big screen TV in Trump Force One, and newscast would come on, and he watched video of himself being shot.
Regarding the campaign, he is confident he's on a path to victory. When I mentioned how the gambling odds had shifted overnight in his favor, he knew the numbers, saying he was given an 85% probability of victory by one odds maker. He asked York and me what we thought would be more important to voters in the long run: Biden's collapse at their first debate or the assassination attempt. He didn't give his own opinion, but acknowledged that the debate was continuing to divide Dems about whether Biden should be the nominee, and that Saturday's shooting would almost certainly compound the swing in his favor as voters absorbed it. All true, but many believe there is still a need for him to close the sale with many people who remain immune to his appeal. Those who have tuned him out have missed the ways in which he has run a far more disciplined campaign than his first two. He has been especially careful about trying to curb the power of the abortion issue, which Dems see as one of their prime advantages since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. In response, Trump has said he will not support legislation imposing a national ban and change the GOP platform to reflect his belief that whatever limits voters in each state decide, there should be exceptions for rape, incest, and the health of the mother. Trump also was smart in the last 2 weeks as Dems tore into Biden after the debate disaster. Instead of interjecting himself, he wisely stayed on the sideline, following the ancient adage that when your opponent is committing suicide, get out of the way. And yet the polls have remained stubbornly close, with some surveys actually giving Biden a small lead nationally. Oddly, that makes Trump's aim to give a unifying speech Thursday all the more essential. Many voters will be watching to see how the assassination attempt affected him. One speech, of course, won't bring a miracle, but if he follows through on his instinct to make this the start of a new, more civil and smarter campaign, he'll pull off a twofer. It would help him in his quest to recapture the White House, and also help put our great but troubled America back on track for a glorious future.
The big screen TV in Trump Force One, and newscast would come on, and he watched video of himself being shot and was just amazed. And so it's all been something, a process of trying to digest and understand what has just happened to him.
And it's not just a change in demeanor, but he told you, and he told Selena Zito, another one of our reporters, that he had, in consequence of the shooting, he had ripped up his original, the speech that he intended to give at the convention, and he had rewritten it entirely. And what we had immediately after the shooting, and presumably what is going to be in the speech, is much more sober, it's less aggressive perhaps, but it calls for national unity. There's a lot of talk of unity. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that is the most sort of amorphous concept of the entire convention, because yes, Trump said he had a speech prepared and it was done. Though he called a real rip-roarer. He said it was going to be brutal, really tough. So it's going to be, political combat. And of course, that is characterized Trump's 8 years in presidential politics. So there's going to be more of that. And then he has this realization on the night that he is shot, then he just can't do that. He feels like he can't come up and just be the old Trump, just let him have it from the stage. And so they began work immediately, literally within hours of the shooting. They began work on a new speech to be more unifying. Now, here's the thing. I think some of this is the short-term reaction, because, just think, anytime something big has happened to you in your life, it takes you a while to kind of digest it, process it, and you go through various stages. So I think part of this is that. And on the other hand, it has been very unifying. The word unity certainly applies to the convention, because the Republicans are already united behind Trump, and now they're even more so. It certainly hardened, solidified, the unity among Republicans. But as far as creating a greater unity in the country, that is something that really I think you have to look at skeptically, given the last 8 years. And I just, how does Trump do that? After, for example, the Russia investigation, and after he has called a Russian agent, a Russian asset.
Maybe this is why you were spared, Mr. President. Thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more.